Hi friends, this is Kai Dragon Gardening and Cooking Channel, and I'm Ann, and today I want to talk to you about something that I probably should have discussed a little bit sooner in the year, but it's still not too late to discuss this, and it is your best heat tolerant plants or flowers that you can put in your garden to help bring in your pollinators. Then I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about planting them in layers for a beautiful background. As soon as the train whistle quits here, and it might take a minute. There are some things that you just can't videotape over, and trains are one of them. Anyway, I did come out this morning and was highly disappointed. I had 8 watermelon that were growing, and they were really getting to be pretty good size. Well, we have had some visitors this year that have been bad boys, and they have been coming pretty regularly in search of water. So another children's story is in the making of the 3 bad boys and their 3 little male raccoons. And for some reason they have decided this garden is one of their favorite hanging spots in the evening. So to my surprise, in giving everything a very good examination, they feasted heavily last night on corn and watermelon. What a great combination. So as it looks, it's not too late for us to replant some sweet corn, which we'll probably do, and see if we can get that going before the first frost. And of course the watermelon, luckily I'm doing succession planting, and hopefully I can keep them away. I'm thinking I may have to get some Vaseline or something and grease the chain link fence, so that way they're not able to climb so easily, besides them and Mr. Squirrel, or I should say the squirrel family. I actually seen 2 squirrels working together to carry off a watermelon, and you don't normally see that. Normally, you know, they're all for one and one for all, and they're not going to help each other, but it's a pretty good sized watermelon, and I guess they decided they were going to share it. So off they went with that. And all my watermelons have nice little holes all the way through them, so you know, that was the end of that. I do have some more that are starting, so they're probably going to get covered up with some netting today. So I would like to at least be able to taste one and not share everything with the squirrels and the raccoons. I thought the train was gone. To my surprise, it's still tooting its horn. Hopefully it has subsided enough by now that I can get started on this. I'm going to do my best. Anyway, I was going to talk to you about layering your plants. You want to make sure that you start out and give yourself at least a 6 to 8 foot wide area for this, and then allow yourself at least another 2 to 4 foot for a walkway, and I'm gonna say probably 4 foot, because by the time your plants start growing, unless you want to be cutting plants all the time, you need to have enough room so you can walk through there comfortably without having to worry about tripping over a plant. You don't want it to be dangerous for yourself or other people that might want to see your beautiful garden. So keeping that in mind, you're going to use up a lot of space if you decide to do this, but it will be very beautiful. So, and what you do is you go back to front. So if you're going to do layering for a flower garden look to help bring in your pollinators, on your very back layer, we'll call that like the backdrop of your scene. And you want to plant any of your smaller trees, like your dwarf trees, and you know, you can get the dwarf fruit trees and things like that that you want to maybe get to. But you're going to need to leave a path behind them and around them, enough spacing in between there so you can get back there if you decide to use something like the trees. Some people don't do like the dwarf fruit trees unless they put them like on the ends where they're easy to get to. Using the small bushes are a really good thing to do. Your butterfly bushes get pretty tall, gladiolus, hollyhocks, any of those really super tall plants that get 7 foot tall or more, or you know, we can go with 6 foot. You can decide how you want to do this, how tall you want your plants to be, and depending on the area that you're going to grow in them, if you're growing it to cover up like a fenced in area or whatever, if you only want them to grow a certain height, you know, talk to the people at your nurseries, look at your seed packets if you're planting some things from seeds. Make sure that you're giving enough room. You don't want to plant something that you find out is going to grow up to 12 foot tall and 6 foot wide, and you put it in your layered area and it's going to take up all that space and you're having to trim it back all the time. So check to see how big it's going to get before you make a decision to buy something like that. Same way with your evergreen trees and different things. Make sure that they're not going to grow to a size that is going to be too big for you to handle when you're putting them on your back layer. Anyway, your back layer is where you're going to put your tallest plants. And after you plant that row and figure out how you're going to do your backdrop or your back layer of your plants, whether it's trees, bushes, flowers, anything that's going to be tall, leave yourself that 2 foot spacing in between those plants at least before you plant your next row. Your next row is going to be your medium-sized row of plants. So anything that's going to be, say, maybe 2.5 foot to 4 foot tall is probably a good number. That's going to be your middle or your really focal point, because people are going to lock in on that. You want to get lots of color. You want to make sure you space everything out far enough so that way it's not touching and crowding out the backdrop. So leave yourself spacing between the backdrop and your middle layer, but don't go so far back that it's too wide in there. But 4 foot's always a good round number, you know, so that way you can get back there and trim what you need to trim. And then your front layer, of course, is going to be your short plants. Anything that grows anywhere from 6 foot high to maybe 18 inches. So that's how you're going to create that layered look. So your front row is going to be your smaller plants, your ground crawling stuff like phlox and things like that you want to cover the ground, or anything that you want to trellis down if you have like rocks or anything and you're planting flowers and you want them to grow down around it. But that's what I mean by layer planting. So your small plants are going to be in the front, the middle sizes plants are going to go in your middle row, and then your backdrop is going to be your dwarf trees, your bushes, your heavier and taller plants, rose bushes, you know, and you can get thornless roses too, so which are really pretty, and then you don't have to worry about getting pricked. But you can also plant some of your berry plants are now thornless too. So just depends on how you want to go with it and what you want to create. But do a layered look. You'll be glad you did, but make sure that you have enough space to do that. And you know, and that way you still have that 4-foot walkway, so that's giving you 8-foot wide of planting space, and then however long you want to go this way. But it'll make a beautiful backdrop for your garden and a beautiful eyepiece when people are walking through. Anyway, some of your best heat resistant flowers and foliage, and keep in mind these are not all pet safe, so you want to check that out too. If you're planting things that are not safe for your dogs and cats and other little creatures, you may want to have some decorative fence or something around it, because you don't want any of your animals getting sick. So I'm going to list some of these plants for you that I know do better in the heat. They can tolerate not having to be watered so often, and some of them are quite beautiful. There'll be a mix of perennials and annuals. So ageratum, I always kind of say that one wrong. They're sometimes they're white, sometimes they're kind of a light purplish flower. They grow really they don't get real tall, but they're also a good insect repellent plant. Angelonia is another heat resistant flower. Your blanket flowers, or some people call it Gaillardia, and your begonias, those do really pretty good in the heat. The only thing about begonias though, they kind of like partial shade. They don't really like that full sun on them for a whole day. So you got to remember planting begonias in with other flowers where they're shaded and protected is beautiful. You know, it'll make it just beautiful. Your canna is a tall heat resistant plant, and once it flowers it will have a small hard seed that you can pick and save and plant again next year, because a canna is going to be an annual flower. It's not a perennial. Your catmint, hummingbirds seem to love that plant, and it will come back every year. It's got little purple flowers on it. Of course, your cone flowers, they come in a multiple of colors, from anything from your purples to your fuchsia, orange and yellows, and there's a lot of different colors of the cone flower. And the cone flower really doesn't like to get watered so much. In fact, if you water it too much, it's going to dry up and die on you. So it's more heat resistant than a lot of your flowers are. Your coreopsis, that's a real pretty flower, has little tiny yellow flowers. Cosmos, they are lots of different colors, and they're also a good insect repellent flower. Your daylily, it comes in yellows and orange and some violets. Real pretty flower. Those will come up every year. Your daylily is actually a bulb plant, And we'll do another video later on bulb plants, because there's 2 times a year that you'll plant your bulb plants, and that's usually in the fall between October and November, and then again in the spring. I believe it's around March, and you'll do your bulb planting for the next year. So anything you plant late fall should bloom the next year for you. Dianthus, that's a real pretty flower. Euphorbia and hibiscus. Now, your hibiscus flowers, there are many different types, anything from the hardy hibiscus trees that you can get to the plants that they make look like a small tree. They'll have like one stalk and then lots of flowers. Those you have to plant every year. They're beautiful, but they just won't survive the winter. We've tried taking them in the house before over the winter and then putting them back out, and they just didn't do very well. So it's something you kind of got to plant every year. But your regular hibiscus plants, they come in the bright red. You can also get them in the light pink or the white, and they come up every year and they spread out. We have stray cats that like to lay in ours, and then they're kind of laying down, but the bees just love them once they're in bloom. Lantana is another flower that the pollinators love, especially your butterflies. They really like that. You have to plant it every year though, because it's not a perennial. Marigold, those are a great insect repellent type flower. They're also good to keep other pests away from, insects that bother your vegetables and stuff in the garden. They come in the variegated and the pom-pom styles, and the yellows and the oranges, and sometimes you can get them the orange mixed with the red orange. Come up here, Wendy. She's got to help. They're just, I don't know, I just like planting them everywhere. They really do keep the mosquitoes down, and it makes it a lot more pleasant when you're out working in the garden as well as just walking through. Your pale purple coneflower is another, I don't know why they keep it in a branch by itself, but it's also a very heat resistant flower. It's very drought tolerant, does not like to be watered a lot. Russian sage, it's another plant that you don't have to water a whole lot. So if you're going through kind of a drought type season and where they're warning you not to water so much, those are really good plants to plant because they don't require that much attention. Salvia is another good one to plant. Your stone crop is a good flower that's heat resistant. Sunflower, those are heat resistant. And keep in mind, different varieties will grow different heights. So sunflowers are really good to put on backdrop areas of the garden. They usually will range anywhere from growing 4 foot high up to, I've seen them as high as 15 and 18 feet before, which is ridiculous, but some of them actually just keep on growing. But depending on the type that you plant. Then your verbena is another good heat resistant flower. Yarrow is a heat resistant flower, and so are your zinnias. Zinnias, if you plant the yellow ones, they're really great to plant around your squash plants. They help detour some of the nasty insects. They'll attack that plant more so than going after your vegetation. Some of your foliages that are really good, like your amaranth is a coral fountain, and your green tails and hot biscuits are real pretty. Basil is one of the most, sorry about that, fragrant plants that you can put out in a garden or even in your flower bed, and it also helps with mosquitoes and stuff. Celosia is great for a summer cutting garden, you know, for your cut flowers. The Pampas Plume Mix and Coral Reef, Dusty Rose, Vintage Rose, Summer Sherbet, Super Crest, and they're all just beautiful flowers. And once again, your Cosmos, of course, it comes in different colors. Hyacinth Bean, many different colors. Your Orac, those are, I can't remember what color those really are, but they're a real pretty flower. Straw flowers are copper red, sometimes vintage white, or you can get that apricot mix. There's a candy pink, a silvery rose, a pomegranate, which is really good. The dragonflower, they like to use straw flowers a lot, dried or fresh in a cutting garden. Wendy, get over here. Come here. Come on. She's my wander dog. She likes to wander around and guard the garden. Then, of course, your eucalyptus florists use that a lot in weddings, and then your ornamental grasses and grains. Some of the favorite grasses to grow, or the broom, corn, millet, bunny tails, your feather crop, frosted explosion. Those are all beautiful heat resistant flowers and foliage. And one more that I want to mention, just because it's really pretty but it requires a partial sun, is the blazing star, because it attracts butterflies. But those are all flowers that they're kind of a must-have when you're going through a lot of hot, dry weather. So if you didn't have real good luck this year with flowers in the garden because it got so blazing hot, next year try planting some of those heat-resistant plants in your garden with some of the other things that you have, and see if it doesn't make your garden look a lot more beautiful. And like I said, check, you can go online to the I think it's the ASPCA website, and it will give you a list of the plants that are actually pet safe, so that way you know you're not planting something that might be harmful to one of your animals. And like I said, you can there's a lot of different ways you can get decorative fences, or you know, even make some things on your own to put around some of the plants that you don't want your animals to get near. But I just wanted to share that with you, because I know everybody likes to have a beautiful garden, and when it gets really hot out, people tend to not want to be out in the heat. They still want to see how beautiful it is, but they just, you know, it zaps your energy, and you don't give the garden the attention that it needs, even your flower garden. And like I said, to keep those bees and butterflies coming, we have to plant the flowers too. So keep those in mind when you're making your plans for next year, and I hope you have great gardening success, and that you're able to get something out of these videos that you can use later on. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Give us a like or a share, especially if you seeing the dachshunds in the video. They like entertaining and be in the stars. Once in a while I may have some videos of some of the other little visitors that we have in our garden, but like the birds and the squirrels and the three bad boys, maybe when they're getting into the watermelon. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Be blessed, and thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Bye.